Hey guys, wanted to go over a couple things when we're getting to bug out vehicles. I've had some questions on um, some of the ways to wire things up and whatnot. I will just kind of give a quick overview. Um, Cars and vehicles use what you call DC current. You've probably heard that term before. It stands for direct current. If you look at your battery, or any batteries for that matter, but for instance, right here we're going to use your car battery. There's a plus sign and a negative sign, and you've probably heard that's why you don't cross them up when you're trying to jump. They have separate polarities. So if you're hooking up, this is just going to be a radio, for instance, or say CB. You need to make sure that the positive goes to the power, which usually has a fuse in between, and that the black or the negative in a DC will either go directly to the battery's negative terminal, or it will just go to a ground, and that is going to be the symbol for ground. And it only flows in one direction, goes through, and then terminates into like the chassis or somewhere under the dash where it's metal, and that completes the circuit for direct current. Now for AC, what you have in your house, it's called alternating current. And for instance, this is kind of a crude drawing. Your lamp comes out, it has two prongs. It goes into your sockets right here. That power flows both ways. It doesn't matter if you flip that upside down and plug it in, and therefore if you were trying to plug something into an AC outlet and you had speaker wire or lamp cord, you could easily rewire it and it wouldn't matter which wire was which. That's sort of what I'm getting at. Whereas if you were in a car, you'd want to make sure that you got the proper positive and the proper negative attached to complete the circuit. Otherwise you'd end up frying components. With your house, it doesn't matter. The only thing is when you increase amperage, say on like a high powered drill or something, what you're going to end up with is the alternating current up here and then a grounding prong that you'll see here. Or a lot of outdoor uses, if there's any other, they tend to be higher amperage circuits anyway, but as more of a complete circuit, there's a ground for any shorts to go through. In case there's any water or any sort of short, it'll help direct that into the circuit, and then in behind your wall, those will be grounded separately. And that's what we're sort of going to go off of. That'll be like a base conversation here. Alright guys, I'm going to bring you into more of the conversation of the bug out vehicle wiring. Here's a separate CB I bought as a backup, and one of the things we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to be able to hook it up and run it off your house wiring. The other part of this conversation is when we get further into solar. Solar will usually be DC because it'll be stored in some sort of a battery cell, which is why we were talking about the inverters that's going to invert your DC battery power into AC. So the reverse of an inverter is going to be a transformer. This little guy here is a transformer. Let me see if I can switch this over here. There we go. Is a transformer. It's going to take 120 volts, which is your house power, and convert it into an output of 12 volts DC. And so what that's going to do for us is on the end of this, we have a female receptacle for a cigarette lighter. So anything that can take a cigarette lighter power. And you can go to any Radio Shack, pick something like this up. You can pick up separate parts at some automotive places for your regular cigarette lighter. Now, if none of you guys have any extra cigarette lighter powered stuff, go to any garage sale, used place, they're going to have something for practically free. And don't worry about what the plug is, because what we're going to do is just pull the power right out. There's going to be a black and a red cord there, and we're going to match that up to our CB power. As we discussed, we have a power and we have a terminating ground, and that's how we're going to hook it up. Now, I'm just going to do this once here so you can get an idea. The power is going to come off the tip. Okay, your terminating ground is going to be your side pieces here, and I will take this apart and show you. All right, this one's actually a little bit fancier than you'll ever run into. This one is actually used for a Motorola radio, but you'll see there's a red and a white. Red's still going to be power. There's some other stuff, so you have an LED light so you know it's getting power. But I'll show you the two blacks are going to be your grounds, and they're attached to the prongs, and those will slide down the sleeve of the inside of your cigarette lighter. Now the coil here is going to be your positive. The reason being because they've actually inserted a glass fuse in between, so that if there's ever an issue, this has its own fuse to save your electronics. So normally you wouldn't run into all that. Normally it would be a simple red wire going up to, sometimes there's a fuse in there, going up to the tip, and then your ground would be on the side. But that's how you would identify it. And then just strip this outer wire down into the two, and we'll just wire it directly to here. Once you do that, you have either a radio that you could easily plug into a cigarette lighter and move from car to car, especially if you have, what we're using here is a little flexible magnetic base antenna. You can run out a window that plugs into the back. So now you have a magnetic CB antenna that you don't have to install or attach anywhere, just stick on the hood or on the top of the car. You have a power supply that has a cigarette lighter for an end that you can plug into any power cigarette lighter. Now if you needed to use it as a home radio, or you were bugging in per se, use your transformer, plug your cigarette lighter right into there, and now you have power. And I hope that answers some of your questions that you guys sent me. Eventually when we get into the solar, it'll be all DC, direct current for the battery cells, and that's why all of your stuff, either you want to convert it so that it can run off of DC straight, and you can get more of these, not to plug into the wall, but more of these receptacles so you can plug more of your car items in, and they're just made to run off of 12 volts instead of your house current. Is more advantageous to be running off of solar. Otherwise you'll have to get several of the inverters, like I showed in one of my earlier videos. The inverter is going to take your battery and move it to 110 house current, but it's, you know, you gotta decide what your platform's going to be, or be ready for whatever. And yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions.